Yeah, because
wager.
I could have placed the same bet on another book where I was winning, but I didn't, right? And I placed it on that one.
I wonder if that changed the outcome.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That probably had everything to do with it. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Lines, the only podcast purifying the sports betting industry. I'm your host, Shane Mercer. That guy over there, Andrew Pace, the founder of In Play Live. If you want to find out what In Play Live is all about on the inside, we got a promo code for you. That is Behind the Lines, all caps. And remember to like, download, subscribe, follow us on all the socials at In Play Live. All right, Pace. Today we are talking about this word, discouragement. But before we get to it, I want to ask you about the week that was, because wow, buddy, what a marathon of a week that just went by. For all of you out there who don't know, you're not quite sure what In Play Live is all about, well, let me give you a little glimpse into the past 4 days. Started on Thursday, Thanksgiving in the States. And for anybody who follows sports, you know that is a big, big sporting day, because we've got 3 NFL games on, and they start at 12:30 Eastern, which is 9:30 in the morning where Pace is, and it goes on all day. It's 3-hour games, 3 games. It goes on all day, but there's other sports in the middle of it all. We've got college hoops taking place. I think there's a little bit of college football that went on, and you've got a few of the other major sports kind of taking the day off. But then Friday rolls around and everything's back into full swing again. And there was an NFL game on this Friday as well. And then Saturday comes around and you've got a whole slate of college everything, hoops, football. It's all there. You got NHL, you got NBA. And then, of course, NFL Sunday rolls around. So, Pace, I think you were streaming for something like probably over the course of 4 days. What was it? Maybe 50 hours of streaming?
Yeah, 11 hours Thursday, solid 12 hours Friday, 13 hours Saturday, and yeah, about 11 hours on Sunday. So yeah, it was good. Yeah, close to 50 hours, I'd say. It's probably the toughest 4 days of the year. You might look at that as something that people get really excited for, but it's probably the toughest 4 days of the year, just because um, you're really going to test all of your I think emotions, patience, discipline. Like, you're going to test everything in the 4 days. It's just impossible not to have a couple bets that you get lucky on and a whole whack that you get unlucky on. So, staying disciplined, staying focused, all that kind of stuff. You could just take some time off, right? And just go, okay, I'm just going to focus on Friday and Saturday, or Friday and Sunday, or whatever the case may be. And I think you'd be totally fine. But in my shoes, that's kind of hard to do. So, yeah, you really have to disconnect as soon as it ends. Like, shut the phone off and just, try to compartmentalize things, and then pick back up on the next day, and yeah, stay focused and disciplined.
How many wagers do you think you made over the course of that those 4 days?
Well, In Play Live on the stream, so these are the wagers that were called. We made 63 on Sunday, 46 on Saturday, 47 on Friday, 24 on Thursday. So yeah, you're looking at
It's a couple hundred wagers.
102, just over 200 wagers. Yeah.
Wow, 200 wagers. Okay, that's a lot.
I
That
made
seems
more
like
than
a
I
lot
think I
of.
made more than that, though, because a lot of the bets I might be placing 6 to 8 times, depending on where I'm getting it, how I'm getting it, multiple spins, all that kind of thing.
Right. So, if you've got to do 3 or 4 spins to get in on essentially one outcome, we'll call it, right? Then that would be many more bets per se, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Right. But essentially all the same outcome, the same event that you're wagering on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So during, you make that many bets, there's going to be some runs in there where you get a little discouraged, right? Where maybe things aren't going your way. Uh, I'm assuming that happened maybe once or twice over the past 4 days.
Yep. Yeah. And I think forget about the last 4 days. I think just the message here that I would probably want to send out is that it just never won't happen. Right. Like, there's a lot of sports bettors that almost feel as though something is happening to them. there's a whole bunch of different emotions and psychological things that occur when you gamble on anything, right? Like you'll watch the way a roulette wheel is handled by certain people, where you'll see some uneducated gamblers say like, oh, it's come black like 20 times in a row, it has to come red next on a mutually exclusive event. Not that that's crazy relevant, but people will kind of go like, oh, maybe you missed the last three, I'm going to go heavier on this next one. Because it has to hit in a completely mutually exclusive event. But what you really want to have in this business is the perspective and understanding that these challenging times or challenging moments on a great day still happen, and they happen consistently. And obviously, we did our whole thing on chaos, but to touch on it quickly, sports are chaotic, and when you have chaotic events occurring, which are just occurring around us in all the time in so many different ways that we don't even know, there are no locks, there are no guarantees, and the way a game shakes out, um, whether it's in your favor or not, is just absolute mayhem in a lot of ways. And I think that one of the best examples of that was the Iron Bowl on Saturday. And the Iron Bowl is the annual matchup of Auburn versus Alabama, one of the biggest rivalries in college football history. And 10 years after the kick six, one of the most famous college football plays of all time, you just watch this sequence of events that could make you literally pull your hair out if you're an Alabama fan. And you're going through a lot of emotions as a sports bettor in that spot. Now, we took the Alabama money line at plus 160 when they were down one score with the ball. And I looked at that and thought, wow, this is a great opportunity here for, an elite football program getting a great number against a team that they are better than, with a drive to potentially win the game. They went 3 and out on that drive, right? So that means that they're forced to punt the football because they still had timeouts and time to get the ball back in that spot. So they punted the football, and the Auburn punt returner muffed the punt. So he goes to make a catch, he drops the ball, something that does happen in sports, but a crazy chaotic thing occurs. So as that happened, the ball bounces off of him. Alabama recovers the ball. I had a really, really good feed on that game. So a whole series of the members were listening to my play-by-play in hopes of, obviously just catching maybe something that they couldn't see. Sure enough, when I said that Alabama recovered the muff punt, there was a whole series of members that got in on the money line at 5.0, 6.0, so plus 400, plus 500. And now they're sitting there in field goal range with a few minutes left with the ball again in the driver's seat to win the game. And they wound up being first and goal at the 5. And at that point, you're thinking like, the statistical probability of Alabama now winning that football game is so weighted in our favor. It's not even funny. We're in the 90 plus percentile kind of thing. So then the craziness happens, right? So they snap the football, and Jalen Milroe, the quarterback for Alabama, he's not paying attention to the snap. Either that or the center snapped it early, and he snaps it backwards 20 yards behind Jalen Milroe. And to watch that happen, you're just like, oh my goodness. But in real time, as it's happening, he is one of the fastest, if not the fastest and strongest quarterbacks I've ever watched in college football. Like faster than Cam Newton was in his day, So he runs backwards, picks up the ball, and I'm thinking, okay, just throw the ball away now, roll out of the pocket, and it's going to be second and goal from the 5. Well, he picked the ball up and then fell down at about the 25-yard line. So now it's second and goal from the 25, and the clock is running. So all of a sudden now this statistical scenario where you're way ahead in the game has completely flipped on its head. Sure enough, it winds up being third and goal from the 25 or the 30 after I think like a false start or another really bad blunder. And I'm just sitting there going, holy smokes, like this is a Nick Saban coached football team. And this is where you can start to feel these emotions of frustration really take over. Jalen Milroe rolls out on third down, and he can run for about 20 yards to get about a fourth and goal at the 5 or 10 yard line. he crosses the line of scrimmage and then he walks backwards. And when he walks backwards, he then throws the ball downfield when he's crossed the line of scrimmage as a quarterback. And not only that, the second time that he's done it in that game. And I am now ready to blow my brains out. And this sets up like 4th and goal from the 35. And then sure enough, in Alabama fashion, he throws a Hail Mary and scores the game-winning touchdown for them. So this is I know you're talking about discouragement. We won the wager, but that could have just as easily gone the wrong way for us. And actually it got to a point where we're talking about being a 90+% favorite to win. We actually ended up being a 90+ favorite to lose that game very quickly. And that's the chaos in sports. So I know this is a long-winded version of actually a good outcome in betting, but I guess what I'm getting at is this level of unexpected chaos that's going to occur is going to cause you to fall on the right side in a lot of scenarios and on the wrong side in a lot of scenarios. And you have to take those punches and recognize a few things. It's not rigged, okay? Are there patterns of referees, coaches, different things that have occurred across sports over the years that have been corrupt? There's no question about it. But as a general statement, we're not dealing with some rigged, scripted sport. And what is happening isn't Vegas calling something in to cover or not cover a spread. It is simply the chaotic nature of what it is that we're doing. There was a scenario earlier this year in the NFL where Patrick Mahomes went down on the 1-yard line and didn't cover the spread, and sports bettors went absolutely ballistic, saying that the NFL was corrupt. What people don't recognize is it was one of the smartest plays that he could have possibly done, because the statistical probability of his opponent scoring back and winning the game is now at 0%. Whereas if he scored, they can march down the field, score, kick an onside kick, score again, and lose the game, which we have seen happen in the NFL over the course of time. Patriots, Saints, Patriots, Browns come to recent memory in the last 10 years. Now, the same thing just happened on Sunday Night Football, where the player did not go down. Zay Flowers got a handoff, busted the line, 35-yard touchdown, and people on social media are commenting under the play saying, what an idiot, he shouldn't have gone down. And people are losing it on the person who recognized that he should have gone down, losing it on him, saying you can't come back down 10, that iced the game. And of course, this is the same scenario, but in this example, they actually did cover the spread. So the other way. So a lot of bettors were quite happy because the public was on the Ravens last night. So all of this stuff is happening on an ongoing basis. And what people's sort of psychology tells them in this industry is that when it doesn't go their way, it's happening to them. And when it goes their way, it was the right thing and the thing that was supposed to have happened.
It's remarkable to when you do go on social media and you see all of these people pretending like, oh, this outcome was rigged, or this was planned or fixed, or the NFL script writers had it this way. It's never ending when you go down that rabbit hole of conspiracy theory. And you just shared a pretty great story about how you watch the chaos unfold. And at one moment it's going your way, the very next moment it's not going your way, and you look like you're dead in the water, and then boom, you've got life again, and your bet ends up winning. And of course, there are so many times that even just over the course of these past 4 days where it didn't go our way. And it most certainly, the chaos went against us. And then, it sort of seems like at times too, it can pile up against you, right? Where the chaos doesn't go your way. And then you place another wager on the same day or evening, and it doesn't go your way, and it doesn't go your way, and it doesn't go your way, and it can go in a streak like that. And then the next day, goes your way, it goes your way, it goes your way, it goes your way, and then you feel untouchable, right? You feel unstoppable, like I can't lose. And it's so easy to get caught up in the emotional swings of both sides of this, right? The side where you feel like you are completely invincible, and the side where you feel like the entire world is against you. And I certainly had my moments over these past 4 days, but specifically I want to bring up yesterday. So I think the team and the stream as a whole had a okay day, not a banner day, but not a losing day either. But I myself, I had a losing day. And last week I came on the stream and or on this podcast and talked a little bit about how I was disappointed with my Sunday because I had only made $500. Well, guess what? Yesterday I lost about $1,000 on the day, and it was all on one sports book, all on one sports book. And I think I lost. I think that $1,000 was broken down over the course of about 15 wagers or so. So I was actively scaling down, thinking like, okay, you know what though, I still practice the some good money management in that moment and in that situation. But there was a moment sort of halfway through this losing streak, and this was just on one sports book. This wasn't sort of overall, but this one book, I don't know what it was, but every wager I placed on this book was losing, losing, losing. And then at a certain point, I got to a spot where I was like, oh, I loved this particular wager that we were about to make on college basketball. I absolutely loved the spot I was in. And so in this particular moment, even though I had been going on this losing run, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm gonna get some of that back, and I am gonna do what I shouldn't do, and I'm going to make a larger wager here, and I'm gonna win back some of these losses. And I love the spot, and boom, hit it, and of course it lost by the hook. It was a college basketball total lost by the hook. And at that point, I was like, man, I should just close this sports book and give up on it for the day. But, being a somewhat stubborn, I guess, I decided to keep it open. And hey, guess what? I lost like another 5 wagers in the sports book that day for a total of like 15 lost. And, you know, I was super discouraged by it, obviously, and at the end of the night. But then I thought about it and I thought to myself, I went on the podcast last week and I was complaining about my $500, you know, that I won and saying it wasn't good enough. And here I was at the end of the day, having lost $1,000 on the sports book, just over $1,000 on the sports book. And I had to stop and you know, took the time to decompress and woke up this morning and thought to myself, you know what? I'm fucking lucky, man. I lost $1,000 yesterday, and in the past, that would have been soul crushing. That would have been a terrible thing that would have affected my life. And I was just grateful this morning that hey, I could lose $1,000 and doesn't affect my life, doesn't affect my family's life, doesn't affect my ability to pay for things, doesn't change anything. I still have money in that sports book, so I've got opportunity there lying ahead of me with that particular book. And it's really not that big a deal. And it's a bit of a lesson in resilience there. But I thought about it all, and I'm thinking, here we are. We're going to come on the show and talk about being discouraged, and it really is an ongoing battle to fight discouragement. And how do you rebound from losing streaks? And I thought we had somebody in the stream, I think, bring it up and ask you, and we got it was funny when this person sort of brought up the topic like, hey, how do you deal with discouragement, Pace? And I think you were like, how do I deal with it? I deal with it every day. I deal with it every moment I wake up, because that not only is the next one around the corner, but the next loss is around the corner, and the next real bad beat is around the corner, right?
Absolutely. And I think that the person that asked was a new member, and he didn't ask how I dealt with it. He asked if I ever have to deal with it. And one of our earliest and most experienced and very successful members said he deals with it every night, right? So
Yeah.
recognizing the imperfections in life. This has nothing to do with sports betting, right? The world is just completely full of struggle and challenge, and that's a really negative picture to paint. But the idea is coming to terms and recognizing that these things that are difficult, that can be going to the 9 to 5, that can be dealing with traffic or a driver that cuts you off or didn't go through the yellow when you knew you could have made it yourself. That could be struggles with relationships, something someone said to you that frustrated you, whatever the case may be. an unrealistic expectation of where you want to be in life relative to the work that you're putting in. And that obviously really relates back to the whole betting journey. You piece this all together and you start to recognize that it never won't be there in all facets of life. So you have to come to terms with that. And when it comes to betting specifically and discouraging things occurring, or a challenging run, or a difficult, um, sequence of events that occur, um, no matter how quickly you just got out of the last one, the next one is around the corner. So that's where you have to ask yourself the questions of, am I cut out for this? Do I want to continue to do this? Do I enjoy this? And what is it that is causing this to be so discouraging? Do I not have the perspective? Do I not have the grasp on the overall goals that I'm trying to accomplish? Because if you do recognize those things, like the next losing runs around the corner, these are my goals and this is why I'm doing this. This is my purpose in this next day, this next hour, this next bet, this next month. When you have that perspective, taking a blow, be that a few in a row, is something that you brush off really quickly. Now, going back to your specific story there, I know, Shane, that you are doing some stuff that isn't necessarily always being called on the stream, and I think that that's very positive for you as a whole. So let's just take these, let's call it 5 to 10 losing wagers, but more so focus on the one where you decided to play catch up and you lost by the hook. So let's forget about the amount that you wagered and let's just actually go back now that we're out of that mentally challenging moment, right? So in that moment, you lack perspective. It's just the natural reality. And there's something to be said about when something is difficult for you and challenging for you, talking with a friend about it, because the friend is going to empathize and sympathize with you, but they're not going to feel the emotion directly themselves. And what that allows for you to get is get great perspective. So there's been a lot of challenging things that I've had to deal with over the years, unrelated to betting, but very related to the business of running this sports betting community. And it's crazy when I speak to anyone from a close friend to a partner, spouse, whatever, to parents and things like that about a challenge. And you almost feel as though the answer that they are giving you is so quick and immediate that it disregards the emotion that you've experienced in it. So I'm not going to come back to you, Shane, and be like, oh, Shane, that must have been so hard for you. You really seem frustrated and upset. Go on. Like, I'm just not going to do that. There are people that you can pay that will do those things for you, right? But I know how you feel in that moment. You might not know that I know, but I know. So oftentimes those details are going to get skipped over, and I'm going to come back at, what the upside of everything that you just did has, provided that you take the right steps now to, I don't want to say avoid that going forward, because it is unavoidable, so that you handle it better next time, right? So the wager that you lost by the hook, I'm just going to make the assumption that the only wrong decision that you made was the amount that you wagered.
Yeah.
But the wager itself was one that you would take over and over again. But those next wagers, so let's call it the next 5 to 10 wagers that happened, that's where you can legitimately go back and likely pinpoint some decisions that you would not have repeated. I'm not saying that's the case.
Oh no,
But
it's the case. It
there
is
you
the
go,
case.
right?
It's absolutely the case. Yeah, where this morning I'm going back and I'm looking, why did I do that? Why did I do that one? And yes, why did I put more on this particular wager when I know that I probably shouldn't have, even though it was a good bet. And
Right.
that one was a great bet. But there were some following that were not great bets.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you get caught up in this moment, right? Of you know I can't lose this next one. You're sort of that idea, right? And it happens, I think, to the best of us, and happens to the worst of us. It happens to everybody who enters this arena, where you go on those losing streaks or those sprees. And the funny thing is that actually, like, I don't want to look at it as a streak or a spree, because I was winning wagers on other sports books in that moment, right? Like, throughout those hours, I was winning some some other bets that were called on stream. Actually, a lot of the Golden Goose, who's made his appearance on this podcast many times, he had quite a few winners yesterday that I hit along with him. So I don't want to call it this losing streak, but it was just on this book, and I thought, I got to get it back to a mark. I've got to get it back to this level, right? And it was I think that was driving my decisions when it came to the bets I was placing on that book.
Totally. And there's more to it than even the bet that was placed. There was the psychology of having that in your head where you go, this is the book I lose on, and I'm now going to place this bet on there to play catch up on that.
Yeah, because I could have placed the same bet on another book where I was winning, but I didn't, right? And I placed it on that one.
I wonder if that changed the outcome.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That probably had everything to do with it.
Right. Yeah. A lot of superstitious people in the business as well. And unfortunately, any one individual just isn't that influential or important in the grand scheme of the outcome of anything that occurs in this, in sports in general. So yeah, I mean, if you can then take everything that obviously we just talked about and approach the next one, not if, but when, and go into it where you go, this is the amount I'm betting, and these are the rules, or these are the circumstances that I am looking for to make a consistent and long-term profit. Now, what's crazy about proper fiscal discipline in this business is that when you don't overbet, you're comfortable with the loss. So it can stack up on you a little bit. And you're like, that was a good bet. I bet the amount that I want. Let's get the next one. You're not like, let's chase the next one. You're like, let's get the next one. Let's lock in and let's get the next one. And I find some of my biggest betting runs are when I didn't start with some sort of crazy wager where, I'm going all in. Maybe I can totally afford the amount that I wagered, but the proportionate wager to my bankroll in that book or my balance in that book was too high. And before you know it, I'm pulling out the card again and depositing. Whereas when I reset and I go, okay, you know what? My unit size might be 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, 20, 50,000, right? That's my actual wager size that I could comfortably afford to place, but I only have 5,000 in this sports book. Even though proportionately the number I'm about to say is high, if I'm wagering 500 to 1,000 in that book, I'm usually going to go on a massive run. Whereas if I click the whole balance, it just always leads to zero. And that is the whole thing about over betting. And if anyone is ever in a situation where they are betting on sports and they find themselves clicking more than, I would say, 3%, 5 would be like the highest, I would say. And this is of your total bankroll. You are making a mistake. People that are betting 10 and 20%, you are over betting, and it is inevitable that you're going to lose. On Saturday, we made 46 wagers. Okay. We were up something like 5 or 6 units at one point in the day, and we finished the day up 2.6 units. A slow day overall. 95 units in November now from our stream tracking, which is just spectacular and a great month. 2 negative days on the month. Now, that's all the wagers called. And if you guys know, following any sports betting service of any kind, the ones we speak out about or not, you're not always going to get the same line, and you're just not always going to produce the same results. It's just the nature of what it is, especially with live betting, where you may or may not be able to get wagers in, or you might have got them in, but you didn't get them in for the percentage that was called. But if you come out of a day like that, where we were up, and then by the end of the day, we didn't reach a new unit high, we ended up, regressing a little bit. Those are the moments where if you didn't survive, you're going to know quickly, and you're going to be reminded that you were over betting. So if a wager is called out at 1% of your bankroll, and your bankroll is $100, it's crazy, but you're spending $1 on that bet. You don't need to make up that 100 into 200 in one wager ever. And it is crazy the amount of members that we've had in the last 3 months that have been like, hey, I just hit the 4-figure club. So they might have started with $100, $200, and they just got it up to 1,000. 5xing their bankroll. Hey, I just hit the 5-figure club. They hit $10,000 in profit. And yes, people that have hit the 6-figure club, $100,000 in profit. And a lot of these guys that have done $100,000 in profit, their stories are individually special and unique, and they deserve all the credit in the world for their personal journey and the way that they got it done, the way they went through adversity, the way they struggled, but ultimately came out on top and succeeded. But the stories are remarkably similar. And you're going to find something that is hugely consistent among these people. And that is tracking your wagers, tracking your balances, and practicing fiscal discipline. And that oftentimes means that you are making $100 wagers with a $10,000 bankroll. And that is a really challenging thing for people to grasp in this business. But I can tell you firsthand, in my early days of succeeding within this, and I'm not talking about making, a little bit of money. I'm talking about making tens of thousands of dollars in one season of college football, because that's where I got started with this. Most of my wagers were $100 or less. Most of my wagers were $100 or less. So there is a massive element of success with the struggle that is about being content. And that means you don't need to spend $1,000 or $10,000 bets. It means that grinding along with $50, $100 wagers from time to time, but getting the value that you need and want to succeed long term, scaling may not be possible to the extent that you thought it was, because of potentially what books you're working with and what they're willing to take, and a whole series of other factors. But again, it can be significant. So, just November, if you did, for whatever reason, make every one of those 95 units with us, $10 better, that's $950 of profit. $100 better, that's almost $10,000 of profit, right? So, the potential's there regardless of, chasing or making these big bets. And I don't think many people will be up 95 units at the end of the month. It's a crazy metric. It's a crazy number, but maybe they're up half. And that would be a great accomplishment, an amazing accomplishment. And I think that the benchmarks of other people and comparing yourself to other people, or they did 95 units, but I only did 30. I feel so down. There's a whole other way to look at things, and you have to look at them that way to succeed long term in this business and in life.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that. That was what I was going to bring up, is the next sort of stage of discouragement or disappointment, right? Because, the two kind of go hand in hand here. But I think disappointment is closely tied with expectation. And when you are comparing yourself to what an entire community did as a group, a whole collective of individuals making 95 units in the month, and you as an individual perhaps not getting to that 95 unit level, and being upset or discouraged or bothered because you only did 20 units, you only did 25 or 30 units, while the whole team did 95 units. It's important to put things into perspective and realize not everybody in that group did 95 units, right? Did you do 95 units pace?
Well, if I did 95 units, it would be, like $1 million in profit, right? I'm closer to 1-0 off of that, and there's a reason for it. It's what I just touched on. It is that level of being content, and that means that sometimes on Saturday in particular, so I'm referencing college football and college basketball, I have to be okay with $250 bets. Now, that's hard. That is not easy in times. It's like you'll sit there sometimes and be like, what's the point? But when you grind and put in a whole day and you see potentially 5 figures of profit in a day, are you going to argue against that? Like, be content, be happy with what you do have, not what you don't. So I look back on the month and I go, am I up $1 million? No, but being content and not chasing has allowed me to still make money that most people would never fathom possible, maybe in a year, let alone a month, right? So I'm really happy, but at the same time, I can't even begin to tell you how much all this stuff resonates with me, because these issues I know I'm addressing as, hey, handle it this way. I'm dealing with them constantly. I'm dealing with days where I see positive units on the stream calls from my own calls that I lost on the day, right? And that doesn't not repeat itself. And it can be as simple as, when I talk about being content and how much to get on things and all that, it can be as simple as getting these $250 spins on a whole series of bets and being up maybe 10, 20 units at that level, and then all of a sudden a really great opportunity comes in that I can spend 10 or $20,000 on, and I take the opportunity and I lose. Right. So that's something that I personally have had to deal with and struggle with and succeed with as well, over the course of the last couple of years betting. And yeah, it's been an amazing learning experience. And quite honestly, like, a lot of the things that I say, they aren't me telling you, they're me telling myself, like, the next one's around the corner. You got to be ready for it. Right. And this all excludes, obviously, the battle of the books. Like, I lost 5 books in 4 days of betting, and I could have lost, I think, dozens more, but I didn't go back to them. I left it, right. So getting limited on one $250 wager on a sports book, because you took one of the lines that they offered, is insane to me. I will never get past the way this industry is operating. And they advertise, all these bonuses and promotions and this big weekend that just passed, and they're trying to get you in. And it's like, sweet. I even get phone calls, and I'm sure many of our listeners do. Phone call comes in from Bobby out in Curacao or out in Malta. Hey Andrew, we got to get you depositing today, man. We got a great bonus for you. Blah 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 blah. Instant payout. I'm like, sweet. I'll take you up. You obviously want my business, and then you're having a discussion with the guy a couple hours later saying, how am I going to get my money from you if I have to roll this bonus over and you're not letting me bet anymore? You wanted my business so bad. I made 2 bets. Like, what are you doing here? Right. So that's a big part of it as well, is just having the infrastructure and readiness for the challenges ahead.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so let's dive into this a little bit, because I want our audience to come away with some practical tips that they can deploy when they run into these moments, whether it's a losing run, whether it's losing books like you, which is typically a good thing, right? It means you're getting limited. Hey, at least you're making some money, right? But you're also losing your ability to make money when you lose those books, at least in that moment. That can be super frustrating, especially when it hits right in the moment of a slate. It's one thing for it to happen at the end of a day, right? To get limited and get the email, or wake up the next morning to a limited email. That's all. That's fine, right? Because it's like, okay, well, it's a new day. But it's a whole other thing when it hits you right in the moment, right in the moment of or the middle of an NFL slate, or a college football slate, or an NHL slate, when you need to get those bets in, or you're focused on getting them in, and boom, they're like, no, 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 your book's gone, or we're taking it away from you right now. um, how do you handle those moments so that you don't get caught up in it? You mentioned going and talking to someone, or sort of venting to someone, and when you're caught up in that really kind of emotional frustration. Do you have anything else that you would suggest that people do in those moments?
Have a plan for all of it, right? And I don't think the best plan is necessarily the next book all the time, because you might just find yourself getting caught back in another trap where you're just going to end up losing another sports book right away. I would say have a plan where, genuinely, what you're looking at on your screen, ask yourself the question before everything starts: what if I don't have this tonight? What if I don't have it tomorrow? Because in this business, you just won't. Whether tomorrow is a month from now or a year from now, you just won't. So what's plan B, C, D, E? Just ask yourself that question. I find myself playing just crazy games of catch up when it comes to getting books funded, and then obviously getting money out of books, so much so that sometimes I forget about some balances. that can linger around, and all of a sudden someone might say something on the stream. I'll be like, oh, right, that book. Go over there. There's a few $1,000s sitting there from a couple years ago, right? But yeah, that's happened to me. But yeah, just have a plan, and even if you need to put a Post-it or your screen saver, whatever it is, with just some things to keep you level headed, like, almost like a kind of like a holy grail to follow, or some sort of, manifesto to follow for your personal mistakes and issues that you've had. Good example. These are your unit sizes right in front of you. Do not chase. Great little message to have. You can look at that multiple times throughout the day once you've lost a bet and go, okay, it's okay. It's okay. Maybe scale down a little bit, and rather than scale up, right? So yeah, have a plan and be ready to execute on it. And when books are out for blood, when they're going on their massacres of cutting accounts, don't force it back with that book again. There's other options out there. Go to another option, and make sure that you're entering it in a space where there's some room for you to actually grow in that book.
Great advice there. One thing that I want to share that I do and that I didn't do yesterday during that run, which is something that I'm still kind of kicking myself today. When I went on that losing run on that one sports book. But one thing that I tend to do that I think is really valuable for me, um, whether I'm on a significant losing run or on a significant winning streak in the day, because as we discussed, your emotions can go very far in either direction. What I like to do is I'm really really big on meditation, and so I go into a dark room in my house and I just kneel down and I take 2 to 5 minutes. It's not very long. Close my eyes, disconnect from everything, can't hear anything. And a lot of people will say for meditation that a big part of it is focusing on nothing or clearing your mind, right? No, no. What I like to, and I'm not saying that's wrong or right. You can do that, but what I like to do is I actually stop and I try to focus on all the things in my life that I'm grateful for, all the things that I have, and really sort of practice this moment of intentional gratitude for family, friends, the things that I have in my life, and importantly, what I'm able to do, which is this idea of sports betting and making money doing this and enjoying the sports and all of that. And whether I'm on a losing run or a winning run, I try to, when I know and I catch myself in the moment of going too far one way and then needing to kind of balance out and get recentered. I find that helps a lot. And I also begin my days by doing that every day by doing that. And it really kind of helps me just stay focused and be able to handle big swings either way, one way or the other. And I didn't do that yesterday. So that would explain maybe a little bit about why I did try to chase a little, and then why I continued to try to force that book. I didn't do the thing that I've already told myself that I'm going to do when I'm in those moments. So just a good reminder for me to kind of do what I'm saying I'm gonna do. And man, those things make such a big difference. Like it makes a huge difference for me anyway when I take that moment to just kind of decompress and regroup and recenter. Where whichever way the day is going, it makes a big difference for me. Um, on this topic of gratitude, I wanted to ask you about uh, how you're enjoying Odds Jam and how grateful you are for having this partnership where we get to show it to everyone on the streams or when we're on the Discord group and in the stages and having it there. I know it's something that I really appreciate, and so I wanted to mention that because man, it's great to just have it in front of you and be able to see all the different odds on the books without actually having to go and scan all the books myself. I can just boom, here it is.
Yeah, I think it's a powerful tool. One of the biggest ways to make money with betting on sports, if not the biggest, is just line discrepancies. And I think we've talked about this before from like a really elementary level, and it's not elementary at all, but a really elementary level is just recognizing discrepancies in books, and then whether it's arbitrage, playing them against each other, middles playing against them each other, books against each other, you can produce long-term profit. And then obviously learning to find out, which line was soft, and even though you might not cover it up and get out of it or hedge it in any way, shape, or form, it can lose. But that being the side that's going to produce the long-term profit, recognizing those things in betting are massive, and are big long-term generators of profit. So OddsJam just makes that stuff simple, right? So it's been great, I think, for the community to have access to some of the screens in our pro tier for basketball. We've been doing that on Wednesdays and Fridays. So yeah, it's been great. And you know what? It really, all this is about, forget about OddsJam entirely. It's just continually improving and finding new ways to benefit ourselves as sports bettors, but obviously the community of people that we work with.
Love it. Yeah, no, I'm really, really thankful that we have it as something, as sort of another tool in the belt, and something that's available to us. It's just fantastic. All right, Pace. I think that just about does it for this week. Thanks for listening to all of you out there. Remember, if you want to see what it's all about behind the curtain of In Play Live, we have that promo code for you, Behind the Lines, all caps. Pace, any final thoughts?
Just with the OddsJam thing, the promo code to join OddsJam, In Play Live gets a discount for its members. So it's you can use promo code In Play Live for 35% off your first month, or promo code In Play Live 15 for 15% off in perpetuity. So if you plan on staying around, and they also have a free trial, but if you plan on staying around, I'd recommend the second one. Yeah, that was it. Let's
look at that. We got all kinds of promo codes. Yeah,
let's
exactly.
have a killer December. Yeah,
December. It's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it. And there's all the promo codes for you, Behind the Lines, all caps, to join In Play Live. You join In Play Live, you get the OddsJam promo codes to get all of that. So look at it, right? We're giving away things. I guess we are ready for December. Wow, September. Geez. September feels like ages ago. We are ready for December, and we are in the spirit of giving. All right, Pace. Till next week, buddy. Keep eating those books. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Lines. Remember to like, download, and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Have a betting story or want to be featured on our podcast? Drop a note in the comments below. And if you want to join In Play Live, use promo code Behind the Lines.